So we hear a lot about oneness, but what does it actually mean? Hey guys, it's John here in the studio. As a recovering Catholic, I often hear the term oneness. And, uh, you know, it's a very interesting topic because the majority of the world believes in it. It's the Christians and the Catholics that have a struggle with it. And the reason is because of the messianic belief. They believe there's only one way, there's only one Savior, there's only one way to find our way to God. And that is a chosen belief. And I thought I'd take a moment to give you a little math, right? 30% of the world claim to be Christian. That means 70% of the world don't. Of that 30%, less than 15% are actually practicing. And so what you've got here is an ideology of exclusiveness. It excludes others from the ability to find their God, their heaven. It literally is. It's a cliquish organization that says everybody else is wrong. But what's so interesting is when we talk about this idea of oneness, it is more prevalent in the world than the ideas of Catholicism by far. The idea of a God or a unifying consciousness um, is very much understood by many other religions in the world. So let's talk about some of these other religions that talk about oneness. The oldest religion that we have documented on Earth is Hinduism. In Hinduism, the idea of oneness with God is foundational. It's expressed through the concept of Brahman, the supreme universal soul that connects all existence. The individual soul, us, Atman, is ultimately one with the Brahman. And so we as Atman are one with the Brahman, so we are one with God. Through spiritual practices such as meditation, yoga, and devotion, better known as bhakti, Hindus aim to realize this oneness, this unity with the Brahman. And Hinduism views oneness as the fundamental truth, and individual identities seen as temporary expressions of Brahman. Realization of this oneness is liberation, moksha, from the cycle of rebirth. In other words, the more we realize our oneness with God, we stop reincarnating because we've now become one with God and one with Brahman. And so this oneness is, like I said, a foundational truth of Hinduism, and it's found in the oldest religion that is documented on Earth. The second ideology, and I'm going to say this specifically because Buddhism does not consider itself a religion, it considers itself an ideology, a way of thinking. Buddhism teaches the interconnectedness of all beings and the idea of ultimate reality beyond the individual self. So it really is based upon this idea that everything is one, everything is connected. We're all connected together, and there's an ultimate reality. There's more than just our individual self. In Mahayana Buddhism, the concept of sunyata, emptiness, indicates that everything is interconnected and lacks inherent existence. So everything being completely connected, and the Buddhists, to get to this connectedness, they practice mindfulness, meditation, compassion. Buddhists aim to transcend the illusion of a separate self and experience unity with all life. Buddhism sees oneness not as a union with a God, but as realizing the unity and interdependence of all things, moving beyond the just simple self-awareness of ego and experiencing nirvana. Freedom from suffering is what nirvana means. And so it comes to this idea that within this oneness of God, we are to realize our independence, to go beyond just thinking of ourselves as an individual, navigating through the world, instead becoming one with the world and understanding that it's all connected into one unity, oneness. The next is Sufism, which is Islamic mysticism. Sufism emphasizes experiencing direct connection and oneness with God, often through love and surrender to the divine. So they're like letting go of the physical world experience and surrendering the reactions to the stimulus of the physical world and coming back into a divine space. It's what I do when I call sitting in love. I let go of the physical world and I just come into that space. Then I take that feeling and I walk that in the world and go to the grocery store, like I often talk about, and you know, let go of my fears and anxieties before I even go into the store, and people smile at me because I'm walking in that oneness with them. Sufis, through devotion, remembrance of God, poetry, music, and mystical practices, Sufis aim to dissolve that individual ego again and become closer to the divine. These are the Sufi dancers, the whirling dervishes. You see, those are all Sufis, and it's a beautiful expression. When I was in Egypt, I got the chance to go see the Sufi dancers, and one of the things that I found so fascinating is when they were spinning, the whirling dervishes were spinning. I was watching this one dancer, and as he spun, you saw his eyes haze out, and he just kind of went into a different consciousness state while he was spinning. And then all of a sudden, you saw him become very conscious again, and he did a different dance move, and he did a different dance move, and then he went back to spinning, and he just went back into that devotional state. It was beautiful to watch. It was beautiful to watch. Sufism sees oneness as a mystical union with God, where the individual's identity fades and the soul merges in divine love and presence. So they literally are setting themselves aside and going into the oneness of God, realizing that the individual awareness of our experience in life, which would be what is called the ego. Most people misidentify the word ego. They think it means narcissism. And in reality, all the ego means is that you're aware of your individual self. It's the I. And when you look at that I or that individual self, you are negating the oneness because you're so focused on the oneness. Now, in narcissism, that's someone who's so focused on themselves to the exclusion of others. And you can get lost in the other direction and be so focused on others to the exclusion of self. But it really comes down to understand in this oneness of God, everything is equal and everything is one. And when you divinely merge the spiritual with the physical, the oneness of God with your physical space, and you walk through this earth, you become an expression of God on earth. Do we find this in the Bible? Sure we do. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. You must become one with me as I am with the Father. These are all oneness statements that are in Christianity, but the Christians don't acknowledge them as oneness, or because it's not a messianic belief. There is no you being one with the greater source. The greater source is the Father above you coming down and dictating his will. And the majority of the world does not believe that. It's strictly the Christians and more so the Catholics that delve into that idea of it. The next one is actually interesting because it's actually Christian mysticism. Christian mysticism teaches unity with God through divine love and grace, seeking a direct and personal experience with God's presence. Mystics practice contemplative prayer, meditation, and sometimes asceticism to experience unity and closeness with the oneness of God or the divine. While God is generally seen as distinct from humanity in mainstream Christianity, Christian mystics focus on union through love and surrender, where God's presence is deeply felt within the soul. Even within some branches of Christianity, the mystic Christians, they believe that there is a oneness of God. So we're actually getting smaller and smaller within Christianity and bigger within the people who believe in the oneness of God. It's much more of a universal truth that is denied by Christianity. The majority of the religions of the world believe in oneness with God. The next one is Advaita Vedanta, which is non-dualism in Hinduism. The philosophy within Hinduism holds that there is no separation between self, Atman, as I said before, and the divine, Brahman, that all is one. Through self-inquiry, meditation, and the guidance of a guru, practitioners aim to experience the non-dual truth that I am Brahman. Advaita Vedanta is among the most direct teachings of oneness, denying duality altogether and viewing all distinctions as illusion, Maya, which is very similar to what I talk about. It's about the world being an illusion of belief, and science backing that up with the fact that everything's atoms, and atoms are just an energy in motion. energy event in motion, according to Einstein. And so everything we're looking at is an illusion of belief. So you're finding that within this oneness of God, there is a bigger story going on, and the Advaita Vedanta actually embraces that idea of the illusion that we're all part of, which is amazing. Let's talk about Taoism. Taoism teaches that everything originates from and returns to the Tao. Everything comes from the way, comes from the ultimate reality of the way, which is the source of all. Practitioners seek to align with the Tao through simplicity, naturalness, and non-action, experiencing harmony with the universe. They break it down to the simplicity. And now I talk a lot about simplicity, of course. I talk a lot about the concept of Christianity being very complex. And I look at this idea of the simplicity of the world being simply love one another. And even Jeshua says in the Bible, I leave you one commandment, love one another. And love one another would be loving the oneness of God. It'd be loving the person across from you as part of yourself. It really comes down to this oneness within the way. Taoism's idea of oneness is less personal and more about flowing with the natural order. Merging with the Tao is in a state of peace and abundance, merging with the oneness in a state of peace and abundance or balance. Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. In Kabbalah, God is seen as both transcendent and immanent, with the divine presence pervading all creation. The goal is to unite with this divine presence. Kabbalists use prayer, meditation on sacred names, and mystical practices to connect with the divine essence and understand the unity of God. It also teaches a unique interplay between God's hidden and revealed aspects, emphasizing both unity with and reverence for God's unknowable essence. So it accepts the fact that it doesn't know everything, and it accepts the fact that there's more to this oneness experience, but it embraces the idea that you are one with God, that you are in this oneness, but just don't have the full experience. One of my crossing over experiences, I I I found myself in that pure white space again, and when I was feeling that pure divine love, I felt like a child. I felt like I didn't know anything. I was in awe of what I was seeing. And this man looks at me with a gentle smile and he says, "You're not supposed to be here yet." And then two women came around him and literally tickled my body back into itself. That to me tells everything. It's just, I am one with that God, but I just don't understand it all. I don't have that ability to know it all. And in all honesty, you can't know it all when you're here in the physical because you're veiled from that divinity, from that awareness of self that is bigger and greater and part of God. And so when you look at it from the perspective of here in this world, we are veiled from that oneness, but we're never separate from that oneness. We're just lacking some information, basically. Let's talk about Sikhism or Sikhs. Um, Sikhism teaches that there is only one God who is both transcendent and immanent, present in all creation. God and the soul are interconnected, and realizing this unity brings liberation. So, in other words, coming back to that oneness frees you. I recently was talking about the two studies on why people are leaving the Christian faith. The most fascinating thing was when they asked the people what they found when they left the church. The number one thing was freedom. This interconnectedness with God, as the Sikhs say, it brings you unity, and that unity brings liberation. It brings freedom from the bonds of ideology, the bonds of theology. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it really comes down to understanding that, when you come back to the oneness, you're free of the limitations that hold you back. Now, the Sikhs use meditation on God's name and selfless service. Sikhs seek to align with God's will and experience oneness. Sikhs are a beautiful, beautiful ideology. And when you go to a Sikh temple or a Sikh center, they have cafeterias for the people who are starving. They feed the homeless. They take care of anybody, and anybody can go there for a meal at any time. And it's that beautiful, loving oneness that every part of humanity is worthy and deserving. And so they They treat their fellow man with that sort of worthiness and devotion. Now let's talk about the indigenous and the shamanic traditions. Many indigenous religions view all nature as interconnected and sacred, with the divine spirit or presence in every aspect of life. Using rituals and ceremonies, they commune with nature, and individuals connect with the divine spirit present in all things. The majority of indigenous beliefs emphasize unity with the natural world and with ancestors, seeing oneness as living in harmony with nature and honoring its sacredness. These religions bring a unique approach to the idea of oneness with the divine. Some focus on a personal union with God or higher self, while others see oneness as a state of harmony or unity with the universe, transcending individual identity. So as you look at these ideas, these various religions and ideologies, you find that oneness is prevalent in the majority of the world. Oneness is prevalent in all other religions. It's only within Catholicism and Christianity that self-doubt, that self-worth, that idea that you are a wretched sinner is created. And that happens because they have created God as the Father, the one above us all, and we are subject to God's will, and we are judged by God at the end of our life. It really is an ideology that is about separateness and being alone. And that's why most people who come out of Catholicism find themselves with guilt and doubt and self-worth issues because they've been told their whole life that they're guilty. They're of killing Jesus. They're not worthy because they're sinners, right? They're threatened with hell through their entire experience. The concept of oneness is completely lost upon the majority of Christians, and it's definitely completely lost among the idea of the Christian church itself. During World War II, there's been this recent discovery that the Pope had a back channel to Hitler. The Pope knew that the Jews were being killed in droves, and the back channel was Hitler was just a conversation saying, "Hey, leave the Catholics alone." Now, why would the Pope have a back channel to Hitler? Because Hitler was baptized Catholic. He was a baptized Catholic, and he was creating the Aryan race to wipe out the Jews, right? And so when you look at it from the perspective of, for the majority of history, the church has been on the wrong side of oneness. The church has been on the wrong side of a loving God and a judgmental God. That idea of communicating with Hitler to only protect Catholics is deplorable, despicable. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. It's not whatsoever you do to the least of my Catholics. It's not about that exclusivity, that cliquishness of religion. What it is about is that that ego. We are the Catholic Church, and we are what is important because we are following the one and only God, which is born into Jesus. And it negates 85% of the world. And it's harmful to the rest of the world because the majority of the violence in wars since the Middle Ages have been based upon Christian wars. South and Central America, whole populations were wiped out by the spread of Catholicism. The Native Americans were wiped out by Protestants running away from Catholics in Europe. It has become the deadliest religion in the world because of its desire to not be one with the world. Its desire to be the only way, as opposed to understanding that there are many ways. In my Father's house, there are many mansions, and in those many mansions, there are many ways to the oneness of God. And when we look at it from the idea of oneness, and you look at all of these religions and ideologies I just talked about, are they all wrong? Are all of them wrong? If that's your stance on this, then I think you've missed what the point that God is love, and God being love, that would love everyone. Everyone. Wouldn't judge them for not taking Jesus as their Savior. It would embrace them with love and compassion. Oneness is everywhere. Oneness is everywhere. Oneness is everyone. Oneness is everything. And what you bring to that oneness will be what you experience in that oneness, because the oneness is responding to what you bring to it. And so you bring love and compassion to your oneness, the oneness will respond with love and compassion. You bring hate, division, and judgment to that oneness, you will have a horrible life. And that's when I look at the comments that I get on this channel and my main channel, it's fascinating. I've never had a Buddhist say a harsh word. I've never had a Hindu say a harsh word. I've never had a Baha'i say a harsh word. Never had a Jewish person say a harsh word to me. I get called the Antichrist and false prophet, and I'm told I'm going to burn in hell, and I'm a blasphemer, only by Christians, because they've taken the messianic belief that they are the only one, as opposed to embracing the world in oneness. And that's my thought on oneness, my friends. I hope this makes sense to you as you go forward in your day, and understand that oneness itself is everything and everyone, and what you bring to that oneness is what you'll experience. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.